and welcome to an exciting edition of the Wellness of Being. I'm your host, Brad Poirier, and today we have an exciting show for you. First up, our guest is Heidi. Heidi is from well, I can't even say that. So Heidi, can you even say it?
Osteopathically yours.
Awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about, getting right into it, can you tell me a little bit about what osteopathy is?
Well, osteopathy is based on the principles that the body's self-healing and self-repairing.
Okay.
Mind, body, and spirit are connected, and when there is something wrong with any of those facets, it throws the body out of balance. So osteopaths, using their knowledge of anatomy and physiology, bring the body into balance, therefore allowing the body to heal itself.
Okay. So if you're training to be an osteopath, how long is the training normally?
4 years.
4 years?
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine that's quite intensive training and things like that.
It is quite
It's not
intensive.
just you flip through a book and say, you take a quiz online and you get your licensing.
No, you have, it's quite intense anatomy and physiology, and finding out from the basis of osteopathy and where we came from. That's all very integral in our training.
Okay, so really, for people that don't understand what it is, and me personally, I'll admit it, I don't know what it is, you know what I mean, exactly, because I've never encountered or never thought I needed somebody who provided the services that you do. Can you enlighten me a little bit about what it is?
Okay, so we're the sum of all our life's experiences. So I have had patients from the moment a baby's been born to very elderly patients. So it's not a matter of why you would come to see an osteopath, it's why wouldn't you come to see an osteopath. There would be no restrictions as far as that goes. You'd go, you'd be assessed. If something's forward, you'd want to see if it's too far forward to bring it back, or if something's side bent, you want to rotate it. It's all about bringing the body into balance.
Okay, so I guess too, and that's what it is, it's bringing everything, from what I gather, just to align everything. So whatever is out of balance, that's kind of what you correct or at least assist in going into the right direction, sort of thing. Except
that it's the body as a whole. If you came to me with lower back pain, I wouldn't just be looking at your lower back. I'd be looking at the body as a whole. It could be something wrong with your foot that has caused a lower back issue, or a shoulder or a jaw issue. It all depends. Everybody's different.
Yeah, so if I came in and said, hey Heidi, you know, I'm booking with you, I have lower back pain, so do you just go in and, obviously, because I think the way that you work may be a little bit different, but if I just came in and said, hey, I have back pain, do you say, okay, you have back pain, let's just work on that?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
So say if I was just an average client who came in and I said, okay, I have back pain, I see your website and I think I'm going to try this out, I have lower back pain, I walk up to you and say, hey Heidi, I have lower back pain. So would you just kind of treat me just for lower back pain, or is there a process that you go through?
No, there's going to be an assessment process where we see how mobility is throughout your body. That's going back to what I just said about it could be your foot. I wouldn't just treat you for lower back pain because that's a symptom, and osteopathy doesn't chase the symptoms.
So then, I mean, obviously it's different, and obviously you must be different than probably maybe a naturopath or like some other holistic practitioner or things like that in what you do, because with your work, is your work more intuitive, or is it more by the book, or is it just kind of just years of practice and your own kind of way that you do things? Is that how you assess people? So if I were to come into your office, what would kind of be the procedure from, like, me initially starting? Would I have to give you something? Would you need to know more about me? Would you just kind of say, okay, let's go in the room, and 5 minutes later I'm feeling good? Like, how does it work? I don't know.
So you would come into my clinic, and I would have you fill out a health history. After that's done, we'd go over it. I would then assess you. I would see how things would be moving. You'd wear loose, comfortable clothing so that movement would be possible. And then, based on where I might find a restriction in the body, then I would have you on the table. And we would move around, and I would see how that restriction in your body is reflected in many different positions.
I see.
And so balance as I go along.
Okay.
So That's
Yeah,
essentially how the treatment goes. It's cumulative, though.
Okay, so
There
it's not
isn't-
like one time you're in and I'm done. Now I
No.
know I went once. I no longer have back pain. Everything's awesome. You know what I mean? But I guess depending on where it is, do you find though with some people that the pain is only a symptom? It's not really a cause. Do you find that with some people?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Chasing symptoms. I have to, you asked how whether it's a template that I go
Yeah.
through to treat. No, it's
Okay.
my knowledge of anatomy and physiology
Okay.
and what I actually feel on the patient at the time.
Okay, yes.
And every time you come in, you're assessed.
Yes.
It's not just a one-time deal.
Okay.
Because your
Yeah.
body is constantly changing. So I treat what I find as I find
Yeah.
it.
And I guess too, if you're taking everyone and you're balancing them, and once that's balanced, obviously from your initial treatment, that's going to change, because if you've corrected something or rebalanced something, obviously they're not going to have that issue, or at least it's going to be in a better state by the next session, you know, when they come to you and stuff like that. So with that too, how did it kind of come to be? I heard that you have a great story about this.
Well-
and I'd love to hear, and I'm sure our audience would love to hear it too.
Well, Dr. Still was a Methodist minister and
Okay.
a doctor. And he lost his wife and 4 of his children
Oh,
to
no.
illnesses, despite everything that the medical community could throw at him.
Yes.
Throw at them. And he felt that there needed to be a better way to treat illnesses and what was going on in the body.
Yeah.
So he dove in and started assessing the body and learning everything that he could about it.
Yes.
And in 1874, he likes to refer to flinging the banner of osteopathy
Okay,
to
yes.
the wind. And
Yeah.
really interesting, he used to have bones that he could have in a bag and just reach in there and just by feel tell you exactly what bone it was and where
Oh,
it belonged in
okay.
the body.
Yes.
So that was actually really neat too.
Oh, that's awesome. It's awesome. I mean, now since everything is kind of opening up and stuff like that, I'm starting to see a little bit clearer kind of what it's all about and things like that. Because obviously, I guess some people coming in think, you know, because it's a clinic, it's like your typical appointment. You have a couple rooms set up, somebody preps you, you go in for 5 minutes, and then you're on your way. You have your prescription and you're good to go. Right. So obviously, with yours, I'd like to know more about your passion that made you decide this is what I want to do. This is the direction I want to take.
I was a massage therapist for 9 years, and
okay.
I found that there were some patients I couldn't help. And so I went looking for an answer,
Yes.
and osteopathy was that answer.
Okay.
Osteopathy is gentle. It is designed to be more accepting to the body,
Okay, yes.
not to be as abrupt. That's why it's cumulative and takes some time
I see.
as the body adapts. It's a spoonful of sugar makes the
Yes.
medicine go down.
Of course.
But it's absolutely amazing. I have been a patient of osteopathy since I joined the program,
Yeah.
and I have had wonderful results with my patients. I have wonderful relationships with my
Yes.
patients, and it has been fulfilling in more ways than I could ever count.
So have you found that not only your patients find physical release, but also emotional release?
Going back to the mind-body-spirit connection,
Okay, yeah.
everything's connected to everything else. So absolutely. You can't treat one thing without having an effect
No.
on the others.
And do you find with the mind, though, the mind and especially emotions, would you find that most people are the ones that kind of hang on to their emotions, or it's the people that kind of, they get themselves locked and they just want to, it's almost a mindset they have and they just want to hang on to this? And do you find the pain is a manifestation of just that emotional pain or whatever they're carrying, that it manifests in physical form for them?
Absolutely. That you're referring to psychosomaticism?
Yes.
And that can occur in people, but I'd hate to generalize.
No, and as I say, I understand probably every individual's, they're all separate cases, and you can't treat everyone the same, especially too. If I were to
don't.
come to you, it'd be totally different. If you went to somebody else, if one of our viewers came, their session would be totally different than mine.
This is
Because
true.
I may be carrying different things or have different areas of pain that they may have. Somebody may be clean and fluid and just, they don't really have any problems per se, but they just need a general I won't say alignment, but just a general balance. So just mind, body, spirit is all balanced into one sort of thing. So with your practice, where is it located?
Right at 98 Albert Street East in Alliston here.
Perfect. So you're right in town. So a lot of people, easy access and things like that. So I think it's nice when we can just walk in. And so if I were to book an appointment, what's the best way? And so if I were to contact you, what is the best way, and how long normally is your waiting list?
I don't have a waiting list.
Okay.
I always try to keep myself as available as I can for my patients. If there's ever a day that I can't fit somebody in, then...
Yeah. So you accommodate if people, you'll make yourself available if you need to be. So if I had lower back pain, it's really hurting, I don't get a machine that says, well, we're booked up for the next 6 weeks.
That's right.
Call me back then type of...
That's right. I don't believe in booking my practice so busy that I can't have room to fit other people in.
And imagine with most of your patients, you develop a relationship, you get to know them, you get to know their body, you get to know their issues and stuff like that. What is the most, I think, for a lot of people, what is the biggest revelation they find after having maybe a treatment with you? Within about themselves or things like that, or just saying, I came in for lower back pain, but maybe it wasn't even something to do with lower back pain. Do you get that a lot?
What I hear a lot is, oh, I didn't realize that this was an issue.
Yeah, okay.
Or people have forgotten things that have maybe happened to them earlier on in life that has had a result for what their symptomology is now. And
do you find that people just adapt to pain? That they say, I'm getting older, I'm working this, I'm lifting, heavy, boxes or whatever, and they just live with the pain and that's their new standard, where they don't know that they can live with less pain. I wouldn't say pain-free, but they can live with less pain and things like that, where they're like, okay, but they chalk it up to something else as opposed to what it might be. You know what I mean? And you probably have lots of testimonials. Do you have an example of somebody that you've worked on that had said, wow, Heidi, you really made a big difference in my life?
No one specific person would I be able to pull out. I mean, I'm just here to help my patients in the community. And I have some patients that I've had long-standing since I started in 2012.
Yes.
But no, I wouldn't have anybody in specific that I would have to say, this is amazing. I'm doing it for the healthcare.
Of course.
And I think I have a reward from every patient that I'm able to help.
Yeah, and everybody's session is totally different. And I guess for you, if it's more intuitive or whatever, that each one is probably different, but when you're in there in the treatment room, you're in with them, and a lot of times, I won't say don't remember, but because you're doing the healing that's being needed, that you don't, it's less textbook for you and more, what does this person need to be balanced? What does this person need to be aligned? What does this person need as far as healing? And then you're the vessel, I would assume, that kind of, facilitates that, okay, this is what's needed. I'll do through my body or through my training, what they need and that sort of thing. Do you have anybody that's, I don't want to say this in the wrong way, but that has actually like cried in your training? And I don't mean from body pain, but I mean just as a release or...
Emotional releases do happen. That's pretty standard.
Yeah. So is it because they've been carrying stuff with them for so long?
Possibly.
Okay.
Whether or not they're holding something in, or whether or not the change or lack of pain in their body has triggered a release. It's not for me to say, but I keep a lot of Kleenex on hand.
Oh, yes.
And I try to be as calming and reassuring an influence as I can.
Yeah, and do you find that when people, and you might have this from your massage experience as well, that you get some people that they tend to, I don't say be fearful, but they end up just seizing up. And a lot of it is trying to release that, or if they're in for an hour massage, that you used to do, and now it takes you 45 minutes just for them to be comfortable and relax and things like that. So I guess, what's one word of advice when people come to see you?
Well, that's all part of the osteopathic picture, not the osteopathic lesion. So what you're talking about my knowledge of anatomy and physiology is my basis. The principles of osteopathy are my basis. Everything I do revolves around those.
Yes.
So it's a matter of, I have people come to my home. I'm blessed to be able to work from my home. So I try to provide a relaxed environment. I welcome questions all the time. If anybody ever has a question about why I'm doing something, what I'm doing, what are my future thoughts, what's going on with what they're feeling, I welcome those questions, and I try to calm anybody's fears or apprehensions through that.
Yeah, and I think that's a nice way too, because as I say, if it's something that you've never had done before, and a lot of times I think most of us, same for me, I mean, now talking to you, I know a little bit more about what to expect, but going in now, at least I can be less fearful. I don't need to be tense. I know that, I can wear loose, comfortable clothing. I mean, you'll kind of check me out. You'll do an assessment first, so it's not like, hey, come in, just go into the treatment room and I'll see you. You know what I mean? You know my history. You know where we're coming from. You'll have that dialogue with me to, say this is our starting point, and then you'll offer probably something after, once our treatment is done, and say this is what I would recommend, and that sort of thing. So it's like a full package coming in, and if I happen to have a backache, I can call you, and then, as I say, from what I understand, you're very accommodating. You can, as I say, if you're able to treat me, you can, and things like that. We work it through, and then we go to our next stage, and things like that, as I say. And sometimes you have long-term people that, as I say, everybody takes a little bit of time. Some people it may be less, some people it's more. A lot of it probably, too, is emotional, and say body-mind connection, things like that. So if somebody were to come to see you, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
That osteopathy is preventative, curative, and palliative. And in some cases, some people, I can't change the structure of their bodies. Let's say they're riddled with arthritis, then that's a palliative case to make them have better days, more good days rather than bad days. Some are preventative, absolutely. I don't want anything to go wrong. That's why I see little babies. I will treat colic, or all sorts of pathologies come through my door. And then there's the curative. You might have a sore shoulder. And through bringing you into balance, you don't have a sore shoulder anymore.
Wow.
So it all depends.
That's totally awesome, Heidi. I mean, our time here has gone so fast. Can you believe it? I mean, now I know so much more than I did before, and I want to say thank you for coming. And we'll be right back after break with Anna. She's going to share her journey of her bike ride across Canada. We'll see you when we come back. Hi, and welcome back to The Wellness of Being. I'm your host, Brad Poirier. Here we have Anna. Anna is a homeopathic practitioner who works out of her own clinic. She's also an author of 2 books. She also has her own skincare line, and she also was featured in Vitality magazine. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you for having me here.
Great. So we want to get right into it. And how long have you been in practice?
Over 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. How did this all start?
So it started with my own, I would call a disease. I was studying sports medicine, even though I was having an amazing diet and strict exercise program. My skin was breaking out. I had horrible acne at that time, and towards the end of the university, someone recommended I saw a homeopath, which was quite a change because I was going to become a physiotherapist. And after one session, my acne started going away, and I thought, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be amazing to actually do that for others?
Yes.
So instead of becoming a physiotherapist, I ended up enrolling in a homeopathic college. And then that's how everything started. And then since I started with this skin disorder, my clients in the beginning were all coming with different types of skin issues, from eczema, psoriasis to acne. And that's how there was a slow progression towards the skincare.
So how did the skincare line begin?
from the clients, I started making a formula, so it's internally, externally, and also dealing with the cause, often emotional. And just like making custom ointments, and certain ointments were, very successful, so people kept coming and returned clients, and slowly from 2 products, and there were 4 products, and
just expanding,
just grew till we have a full line now.
So I imagine with your line, I believe it's called Spark, that with your line, what makes it so unique?
What makes it so unique is custom formulas. I actually go and forge myself the flowers, roots, and leaves. I make my own infusions with oils and extracts, and then make them by hand, which energy of the human is very important in making the product.
Yeah. So with that, do you ever use any of them? Because I know one thing you do nature walks, and you also, with the chaga mushroom and stuff like that, do you ever take the chaga mushroom and use that in any of your tinctures or any of your product?
I haven't used chaga mushroom, but I have used reishi mushroom, which is similar to our hair extract for the hair growth.
Okay, yes.
So I do, you're right, like I do the plant walks because I also teach people about wild edible foods. And edible and medicinal, there is like, overlaying pattern. They actually, whatever is edible is often also medicinal. They have high contents of nutrients. And yes, we do add them into the products.
So with the walks that you do, how long would a walk normally take? If somebody were to sign up for one of your walks, kind of what do you go through? What do you show them? What do they kind of get out of it by taking one of your walks?
So it's often for the beginners, and then when advanced students come, we have a completely different walk. But for beginners, we start with a class at the clinic. We talk about the benefits, how to use them, how to prepare them, what plants, what parts are edible in what plants, and then we go into the park and actually recognize the plant. So then we would pick a plant, see what it tastes like, feels like, smells like, how it can be prepared, what are the medicinal aspects of that plant. So when someone walks away from the plant walk, they can count on 15 plants that they can recognize and actually utilize in their diet.
So is there a type of mushroom that you shouldn't eat? And if there is, what does it look like?
Yeah, there are a few poisonous mushrooms, same as few poisonous plants. And it's good to know which ones they are. Mushroom mushroom walks I don't do in the city because they are called mushroom forays, and you would take people to the forest and actually go where there is a specific season for the mushroom. You would go and forage for that particular mushroom. So with plants, if I see the poisonous plants, I will teach which ones they are not to be eaten and how different they can be from other plants that are edible, if they're similar, like to know the differences, so people feel confident about not making those mistakes.
So where did this passion come from that you wanted to know more about mushrooms, more about foliage, more about stuff? Is that an extension of some of the other stuff that you were doing as well, like prior with your training and that sort of thing? You just wanted to go a little bit deeper and kind of see more about, what these products were, even with your skincare too. Really look into what ingredients are, what the natural oils do when you're making tinctures, things like that. Is it healthy? Is it safe? And things like that. I would imagine that you would have a process that you go through and kind of a checklist of what you would use when you're making certain products.
Well, so in my practice, I developed that, I learned myself that there are 4 components to health, just like this chair that we're sitting on. It has 4 legs.
Yes.
So one is nutrition, one is hydration, one is movement, and breathing is also very important. And the seat that we're sitting on would be like a mind, like an umbrella, holding it all together. So exercise, I'm a personal trainer from my background, so that is also something that I look into when I work with my clients. Breathing, we talk about various types of breathing during the consultations. Nutrition. Nutrition is something that, these days we, differentiate between conventional food and organic food. But when I started learning about wild plants and realizing that wild plants are like superfoods, they are local, they are seasonal, they are also abundant, and they're free, and they are truly superfoods. For example, chaga mushroom, 1 gram of chaga, ground chaga, has 35,000 antioxidants.
Oh, wow.
That's like a bucket of blueberries that you would have to eat. So how can you compare like 1 gram, which is like a tip of a spoon, to this like a big container? So same as wild carrot. For example, with carrots, 1 carrot from 1950s, the nutritional value in 1 carrot from 1950s, to get the same nutrient level, you would have to take 10 carrots in 2015. Our soil is depleted. It's not as nutrient dense and rich as it used to be. Where wild plants, when you look at it, they grow in an uncultivated soil. The plants draw the foliage, the minerals go into the soil, and then the soil is super rich. So when the plant grows, and also there's like cooperation. If you look at any patch in a forest or in a meadow, you'll see that 1 square meter, there'll be 10, 15 plants growing together. They cooperate, they work together. So that was also fascinating. How, maybe we don't need to eat a whole bucket of berries. Maybe we just need 2 or 3, and they'll have more nutrients than just eating like more.
A whole big, and I think a lot of people think that too. A little bit is good, a lot more will be better, but it may not be doing a lot of benefit for your body, because I think too your body can only absorb so much as far as nutrients and everything before it'll just kind of process it and eliminate sort of thing as well. So you may be by eating more, you're just kind of wasting your money, just kind of eating extra and stuff like that. But one thing I really want to talk about, and this I kind of know, is your heart and soul is in your clinic. And I know when you had that dream happen to you, like, can you tell us about that, when that came true for you?
So with the clinic?
With the clinic.
Yeah, with the clinic. So I've been practicing homeopathy for 7 years, and I was just renting a room at the back of the office. And I just saw that there's a lot of competition between the practitioners. Not everyone is working together. And I was thinking, like, wouldn't that be amazing to actually start working on integrating holistic and conventional medicine together? And the idea I thought I had at that moment was to open my own center in medical buildings, hospital, and so on and so forth. And I started looking for a location. When I found this location at Dundas and Roncesvalles, at first it was just overwhelming because it happened so quick. And like, am I ready now? There's like all these offices. Like, I need other practitioners to be with me. I need to create a team. However, I just like dove into this process, and everything, like when we believe like in universe providing,
of course,
it was almost like, when you see a surfer on top of a wave and just like you're just being carried, that's exactly what happened. Like any obstacle I ran into, just like felt like someone else would bring a solution or something else happen, and everything came together. I specifically designed this space for healing. It has sacred geometry posters underneath the floor. Every floor, every room is chakra coordinated. We put crystals in corners of the rooms. The music that plays has a specific brain frequency to alter the healing. We serve chaga. We use essential oils to promote raising the frequency. We know that essential oils do raise frequency. And just the entire space is super healing. We have the infrared sauna. We have vibration plate. We bring our own water from the spring. So we collect water from the spring in Ontario and then bring it to the clinic. So it's not store bought.
Oh, nice, and not from the tap, and
not from the tap.
No.
And now we have a great team, 11 practitioners.
Oh, wow.
And currently I'm looking at the second location, and I am trying to get into the hospitals, which is going to be a little bit more challenging, but I believe.
Yeah, but I know you're a fighter, and I know you fight hard to get stuff, done and things like that. So going back to your practitioners, what kind of practitioners do you have in your clinic? Besides yourself, what other kind of services and things do you offer for healing?
Good question. So we have pretty much a good array. We have 2 naturopaths, 3 psychotherapists, holistic nutritionists, the biofeedback practitioners, homeopath, osteopath, RMT, and she specialized in most of the massages as well. And we also have holistic facials. So we have a specialist in skincare who does beautiful facials using natural ingredients,
Yes.
edible, and as well as using our online Spark skin support. But she also makes her own, so that makes it more custom for the clients.
Yeah, and that's nicer too. So they can come in and they can have a personalized experience as opposed to coming in and it's just assembly line. Okay, you're having a facial, you're having this, okay, next. And the person gets in, they don't care. Where you can kind of customize, or they could say, hey, Anna, I have really dry patches on my skin. You could say, okay, we'll look at your skin and we'll formulate a product that's right for you and stuff like that. One other thing, so you've been teaching, but also another thing too is the cycling, right?
Yeah.
So you did an amazing trip, and I saw it all over Facebook, all over social media. So can you tell me how that trip came about, how far you cycled, what the whole purpose was, and where your passion was in making this happen?
So last year, I decided to fulfill another dream, right?
Okay.
Like I feel like life is a game, and it is about fulfilling dreams. And I had this dream for 18 years to cycle across Canada.
Okay.
And the dream was just like, instilled in me when I flew back from Poland. When I came first to Canada, I saw this vast country, and I'm like, wouldn't that be nice to cycle across it one day? And it was always this like one day, someday syndrome, I'll do it. And every year was always like, there was always something.
Put it off.
And it's a big trip. And last year, I just said, that's it. I'm going to start training. I got myself a bike, and I decided to fulfill it. And I used this also as part of a campaign to raise awareness about my other dream about integrating holistic and conventional medicine together. I wanted people to understand the difference in approaches in health, because it was also good understanding when I was cycling to see that not everyone is on the same level as we are in Toronto. I noticed that my circle is very specific, and people are very aware about yoga, movement, nutrition, positive thinking, hydration, but that's not the case in other parts of Canada.
Okay.
So many grocery stores didn't even have a good selection of vegetables. People are struggling financially, and I started thinking like, oh my gosh, like I really have to rethink all this, because it's not always as easy as it seems to be. So I cycled. I started my journey in Victoria on the island, on Trans-Canada Highway, mile 0, and I finished in Newfoundland at Cape Spee, which is the most eastern point in Canada. That's 7,200 kilometers in 77 days. My biggest day was 280 kilometers that I covered from Calgary to Medicine Hat in one day. And it was an amazing experience. I was traveling with my son and my parents, so they were my technical support team. I would meet them 2-3 times a day. At night, they would help me prepare a meal. And it was quite amazing. And also I met a lot of cyclists who were doing similar things from other parts of the world. There was someone from Japan and Norway, England. And it was interesting because they all wanted to cycle, but they didn't familiarize themselves with our flora. And one guy pitched a tent in poison ivy without even realizing that we have plants like that. So it was good to just educate him that, like we have other plants as well, like poison hemlock that you have to be aware of. And so it was amazing experience.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. A lot of people too, they don't know how to identify that stuff. Obviously he didn't if he's right in poison ivy. But when you were traveling, did you also find too that mentally and physically the cycling pulled a lot of things out of you? Did you find that?
Yeah, I had something really interesting. I realized that it's not the physicality. It was all here. If I told myself that I'm gonna ride so many kilometers, somehow my body would just prepare itself and do it for me. If I just had, like if I started thinking thoughts like I'm tired or I don't feel like it, immediately my body was just becoming weaker and I wouldn't be able to complete it. And another thing which was interesting, as I was cycling, I realizing that something bigger wanted to experience itself through me. I realized that, wait a second, I don't think this ever been my dream, because after 4 or 5 days of cycling 160, 70 kilometers, I'm like, this is actually quite hard and very difficult.
And of course, and I find most people, I don't think, willingly say, I want to bike over 7,000 miles just for fun. you know?
Well, I had a different picture of what the reality of how it would be, and when the reality kicked in, how tired so many days I was just sleeping in the same clothes, and we didn't have water because we were sleeping by the side of the road in the ditches often. And I'm like, I can't believe this is my dream, because when you think of a dream, you think of like having a wine on a beach.
That's right, and you didn't have a hotel in between. I'll do a couple of miles and then let's pull over to the hotel and I'll do all that kind of stuff.
Sweating, and my body's all tired. The weather was all over the place, and it's like, is this really my dream? And I realized like something else. I actually wanted to experience it, because as I was cycling, I would actually recognize myself in the environment that I was cycling into.
Wow, that's a truly amazing story. Our time has gone so fast. You're truly an inspiration. You're a wonderful, amazing, empowered woman.
Thank you.
I mean, you've done so much. I mean, from, say, writing your 2 books, being featured in Vitality, being an entrepreneur, opening up your own clinic. I mean, the list goes on. Probably some days you're like, wow, is this really me? I've done all this. It's just truly incredible. I want to say thank you, and I thank our audience for watching. We'll be right after the break, and we'll see you then. Hey, and welcome back to The Wellness of Being. I'm your host, Brad Poirier. Now we have an interesting guest who has wrote his own book called The Strength Solution Method, a gimmick-free approach to an empowered life. So our guest today, Sean, will be talking about his book and sharing his experiences with you. So I want to say welcome, Sean, and thank you for being on The Wellness of Being today.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
So we're going to jump right into it. So we have your book here. So if you want to tell me a little bit about your background, what you used to do before you kind of got into this here.
Sure. Well, I do a lot of public speaking to groups, and I always start with a bit of a joke. I tell people I spent a lot of time in jail growing up, did about 8 years inside, and then after I get a little a serious look from the crowd, I say, folks, my name is Sean Charlebois. I'm a former corrections officer.
Yes.
I am now a strength coach, gym owner, and author. So I did, 8 years with the Ministry of Corrections, and I always refer to that time of my life as it was my true education, because outside of college, I learned so much about myself, people, and what I was really passionate about and what I wasn't passionate about. On that note, it's kind of a funny thing. I always tell people you can't know what you want until you've experienced things that you truly don't want, right? So I think we can agree on that. So about 5 years in, I had an epiphany on a night shift, and I was doing my watch tour, checking on the well-being of the inmates. And it hit me. It just said, I had this voice inside me asked me, is this what you're going to do for the rest of your life? That was 5 years in. And the next step I took forward, there was a resounding no. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I just kept thinking of strength, health, fitness, and empowering people. So I went from the business of imprisoning people to now empowering people. Couldn't get more opposite ends of the spectrum.
Of course.
Right, so I decided to pursue that, and I planned for 3 years. I did a lot of educated myself. I trained. I saved some money, and then I went for my dreams. So, and so far so good.
Yeah, but even with that, it's the same. Like you say, you putting people behind bars, but I think now what you're doing, you're kind of freeing people from the bars, the mental bars within their own body, and allowing them to grow. Because a lot of people think that, because when I used to go to the gym, I used to train. I used to have a six-pack, and I used to train 5 to 6 days a week.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot. But then it shows your body how much strength and how much endurance and how much farther you can go that you never thought you could.
Absolutely.
And those best times is when you feel that pain, because not all pain is bad.
No, exactly.
Because pain can mean obviously change and stuff like that as well.
Absolutely. Strength through struggle, or whatever you would want to call it. I try to really incorporate that with everything. I always equate everything to getting stronger, whether it's whether you're improving your relationship or your finances or your job or whatever, personal demons. Everything is about getting stronger and moving forward in life. Trying not to repeat the same mistakes and just continuing with that forward momentum. And I try to do, that's what the book is about, and that's what I try to portray with my training with my clients. I definitely convince people that, look, training is a long-term process. I'm not the guy that's going to promote a six-pack in 21 days.
Yes.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just don't see it that way. So yeah, that's very much what the book is about. I wrote it because I was sick of what I was hearing in the industry, and I wanted to do my part in removing some of those myths, some of those like empty promises, what I would call. And I think I did a very good job. It was very well received.
Yeah, so if people were to get your book, The Strength Solution Method, if they open it up inside, kind of what does it show them? How do you break it down? Like, how do you do your chapters? Is it a little bit about you? Is there photos in there? Is there a little bit of stuff about strength training? Kind of what do you cover in your book?
Yeah, good question. So the table of contents goes from a little bit about my story, a little bit about sort of where I came from, and then it gets right into identifying your why, right? Identifying the reason why you would want to get stronger or get fit or improve that side of your life. And there's a bit of sort of mental training, if you will, and sort of getting people to think a different way if they have never thought like that before. And then after that, there's a little bit of basic information about the human body, just sort of normal physiological things.
Yes.
And then I get right into what I call the disciplines. So I've separated exercises into 4 disciplines. 1 is body weight, 2 is kettlebell training, 3 is the bar, and then 4 would be awkward objects and sort of like strongman type lifting. And it's for everybody. It's not a macho thing. These are things that are very functional for everybody.
Okay, so you can use that. You can use a medicine ball. You can do, you know what I mean, things like that. Because a medicine ball, I guess, it's a little bit heavier than a beach ball.
Yes, exactly.
You know, sort of thing. But I think there's different reasons why people train, people work out, because I think too through the training, besides the transformation of the body, you also find there's a relation to the mind as well.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So there's different things that happen in the mind as far as endorphins are released, maybe building more self-confidence, maybe, you know, in how you look at yourself and things like that. One
of the biggest bonuses of what I do is when a client doesn't think they can do something, and then by the end of that session will quite literally do the thing or exceed the thing that they didn't think they could do. So I guess that's just pure empowerment. I really try to put the ball in your court and make you do things that you never thought possible. And once you start thinking like that, you can very quickly apply that to other areas in your life. So I don't really see too much of a difference between, you know, strength training and just, you know, being the best person you can possibly be. I see them very much the same. And you don't have to be, you know, an Olympic athlete to do this stuff, but it certainly helps if you develop that side of your body. Because
I think definitely one challenge probably for a coach or any kind of trainer is once they have a client and that client hits a wall and they believe mentally they can't go any farther.
Right.
So how do you kind of get around that with your personal experience?
That's a really good question. You know, honesty is the best policy, and telling people like this is a long-term process. There's a good saying out there from another coach that says, you know, they can't all be gems. So out of 10 workouts, 6 of them might be really good, 2 of them might be fantastic, and then, you know, my math's bad, 2 of them might be just completely terrible. Because as you know, there's many other sides of life. There's the stress that you're experiencing at work. Did you eat well? How do you feel that day? Emotionally, are you in the zone? Are you not? So you do the best you can, and you train hard, but your hard on Sunday might not be the same as hard on Friday, right? And you have to honor that, right? Like, you know, I guess that's the mindful part about the whole thing.
And I think just accepting it too, because we all have cycles, and you're going to go up, then you're going to go down, you're going to go, I mean, you have to have that, we all balance, and I mean, you're going to have good days, bad days, but I think what it is not putting a label on it. Like, it's not good or bad, and I think if you're really determined and you're passionate, you're going to push through that. I'm feeling like I don't want to do it, but if I want to succeed, I'm just going to do it anyway, because I found once you're already in your workout, you're like in that zone, you're there, right? And things like that, where, you know, 5 minutes before, 10 minutes before, 20, and that's what I found too, going to the gym, everybody would sign up, after the holidays, because everybody wants to lose their gut.
Yeah.
And then, you know, a couple months go by, and then you see less people, and by the summer, you're like, okay, and nobody's like hardcore unless they're these guys that are doing weight training or they're competing or things like that. Those are the only ones that are kind of there working out. And it doesn't, I don't think strength training really has to do with how much bulk you can build.
No, very good point. Very, very good point. The I try to, that's another thing I really try to educate people on, I guess, is that it's not necessarily bodybuilding. You don't have to grow and get massive to perform strength training. You know, one thing I promote is just the concept of authentic human movements, right? Squats, lunges, crawls, pushing and pulling, but not necessarily, you know, destroying your muscle fibers and then trying to make them grow. That's not for everybody, but it's not a bad thing. It's just, it's different. You know, you wouldn't tell that to the 70-year-old lady who needs to start training as a result of an injury. You wouldn't be like, oh, bicep curls all day, you know?
That's right. It's not going to work, and that's not what you really need. And if you need to build up a certain part of your body, or let's just say maybe that's not the right thing, or somebody has to do planking, or somebody has to, maybe an alternative method might be better for them than kind of what you have. And say it's not all dumbbells, barbells, doing bench presses and things like that. If that's not, if you don't care to build up your chest, you're not going to, or if you want to build up your chest, you're not going to do all the leg stuff, because that's not going to build up your chest.
Right.
You know, if you're doing tons of cycling and whatever.
Exactly. If that's a weak area, you wouldn't. Yeah, exactly.
Like that sort of thing. And I think a problem too with a lot of people is diet as well, because I think a lot of people want to get, especially if they're competing or whatever, they want to get like that nice V shape and things like that. So their diet kind of lacks because they don't take enough calories in, but they're also exuding a lot of energy, and they end up, instead of probably just getting like bloated and things like that, because there's so much stress on the body, and then they're maybe obsessing over the amount of calories that they're taking in and that kind of stuff. Everybody, you know, has the mentality of, you know, more, and like extreme this, extreme that, when the reality is, if we just pay attention to eating certain foods a little bit more, and drinking a bit more water, and doing the best you can that way, good things will probably happen, right? And I think that's what it is. For a lot of people, it's the hydration part, because a lot of people don't hydrate enough, which causes body pain, a buildup of lactic acid in the body, like different things like that. They don't eat enough wet foods. They don't eat enough fiber. They don't eat enough like condensed foods like beans and things like that, just to kind of get everything flowing through their body. And all they do is mostly they just power up on a lot of these, like, I don't say meal replacements, but a lot of protein shakes and things like that.
Supplements,
But obviously, there's probably better ones than others, or certain proteins you should look for as well.
I have I touch a little bit about nutrition in the book as well, and my sort of philosophy on the whole thing is there are some supplements that are worth taking. A lot of people seem to be deficient with protein. They just don't seem to eat a lot of protein. But that doesn't mean they need to consume a whey protein or whatever. I always say, choose a plant-based one or whey, whatever agrees with you. Whatever agrees with you more.
Yeah, because obviously you're not going to choose whey if you're lactose intolerant. Or if you're vegan or vegetarian, obviously you're not going to go for something that's like based. Like that sort of thing. You want something more plant-based, obviously.
So there's plenty of options for everybody when it comes to that, but water is huge. You know, like the water, nobody really drinks enough water, and that's just the truth these days. So I touch a little bit of base on that. A lot of training programs are in there as well, beginners to advanced.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
So it's kind of a bit of a one-stop shop, but you know, if someone doesn't find something in here, then there's plenty of other products out there too.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, so why this book now? Why do people need to see this book now? Why do people have to have this book now?
I think the empowerment and sort of the truth that I tell in there is that you can't get anywhere without hard work. You have to know what you want before you start. You have to know why you're doing it before you start. Because I could sell you a program and promise you the world, and if it doesn't work, they're going to turn around and say, this guy's a liar. When you put the ball in someone else's court and tell them that The goal is the process. The goal is to apply this to your life.
Yes.
That's important, right? Not 2 weeks to, or 2 months to a tighter tummy or whatever it is.
Because I guess a lot of people probably come in, they say, I want to hire you, you're my trainer, I want a six-pack, and I want it like by the weekend.
Right,
but I still want to eat McDonald's, I still want to eat fast food, I still want to eat, what I want to eat, I want to have a burger, but I think that's how people kind of maybe, they tell you, hey, Sean, I'm doing everything right. I'm not eating any bad stuff. I'm not, and then they go to the drive-thru on the way home. It doesn't really count because I just worked out. So I burn off all those calories, and then they're saying, well, why is this not, you know what I mean? It's not happening for me. You're not working for me because you're not giving me results.
Right. A concept that I love to say to people is we can't desire and expect extraordinary and live like ordinary.
Of course.
It just doesn't work. If you want to excel in anything, there's a lot of hard work, a lot of hard work involved.
So are you the kind of trainer that is more like a drill sergeant, or are you kind of more the one, you kind of meet the person where they're at, and then you help them grow from there and say, they'll say, okay, my goals are, I want to have bigger arms, I want to have this, I want to develop, so then you would create a program for them and say, okay, if this is what you need. But I think also with the balance as well, because I think if I have a strong upper body and I have no legs, they're all like thin little legs and I've got these huge arms, you're not proportionate. So I think you have to kind of, and then how important do you think when you work out, so you should work the whole body, or you think isolation of different parts per workout is better?
It's a very, very good question. And what I try to do is I assess everybody, sort of the way they move, and then depending on what that information gives me, then we sort of identify weak spots. Most people I train, I try to incorporate a full body workout just because I play devil's advocate, or I say, like, human nature, you might not do these workouts on your own. I'm going to make sure you do them when you're with me. And then it's just a question of picking the exercises that are the best bang for your buck. So deadlifting, squats, crawls, push-ups and stuff like that. And of course I listen to what they want to do as well. And we, as long as we laugh a little bit, they're working hard, their heart rate gets up, and they really feel the difference, I'm happy with that.
So if someone has had an injury, do you also do like an alternate? So if they can't maybe do a push-up, can you show them an alternate that is a little less on their body, type of thing? So then it's not like, here, do it anyway, because you got to push, and you have to know where they're at. And obviously I think as a good trainer, you have to know where they're kind of at, but you also do coaching as well. So I want to touch on that a little bit. So most of the people you coach, what is the general thing that people would come to you for?
A lot of the times it is for strength, like literally just to get stronger. And the benefits that happen of that is that usually there is some fat loss, usually there is some muscle gain. Their performance, the way they move, is so much better. They can essentially live better by getting stronger. There were a few people that really wanted a certain look, and they've achieved what one guy gained like 40 pounds of muscle in like six months.
Wow!
And that was his goal. He wanted to bulk up. I said, all right, let's do it. But for the most part, it's either like after an injury, or they need to get stronger, or they just want to like feel better, and they want somebody to show them what to do. So I do that, I happily do that.
So if someone were to come in and see you, what type of, if you give me like just a very quick overview, kind of what your assessment process is.
Sure. First off, we do basic mobility drills from the neck down. We do a very sort of due diligence warm up. And then after that, I ask them if there's any pain during that. Then I look at their squat, see their ability to squat, lunge. I see a lying leg raise. I look at a bridge. I look at their ability to plank or push up. And the same thing with a pull. About 7 different patterns. And then the entire time I'm also checking their responsiveness, if they're coachable, if they can cue, if I give them a certain cue.
And they're a right candidate for you. I mean, our time has gone so fast. It's amazing how quick it's gone. I mean, I'm very excited. The Strength Solution Method. This is Sean here. Go visit him. I thank you for watching today, and we'll see you next time on The Wellness of Being. And I'm your host, Brad Poirier.